Hello, good evening. Welcome. This is Hot Edition. We're live from Yusabata Desawe Kanda, also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. Coming up this evening here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Also streaming live at 3FM 927 with your thoughts, views, comments, and opinions. Welcome here on Hot Edition. Samuel Okujeto Blakwa invites the U.S. ambassador for clarification on Donald Trump's tariffs imposed. We've got details of that shortly. Stay with us. Also, foreigners involved in galamsey and fraud will be deported, not prosecuted. That's according to the Interior Minister. We'll be finding out from the Ghana Coalition Against Illegal Mining how they react to these latest moves by the Interior Minister. Supreme Court to hear suit challenging the Chief Justice removal process on April 9. Stay with us. Also, government plans to scrap COVID-19 levy in the budget. That's according to the Foreign Affairs Minister. We've got details for you. Plus, growing concerns following a 10% tariff hike that was imposed on Ghanaian goods. And meanwhile, we're getting some details also as the new polls show a drastic shift in the outlook for the country, as 62% of voters now say the country is headed in the right direction, compared to 26% who said this as the country was heading in the wrong direction the same period last year. We have details of the latest in business and sport over the next 1 hour 30 minutes. I am Alfred Akrofi. Stay with us for the details here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Let's get into the details now here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. And the Supreme Court has said Wednesday, April 9, to hear the injunction applications against the progress of petitions for the removal of the Chief Justice Gertrude Tokono as the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. Two suits by former Otafo, that's the former Deputy Minister for Local Government and the current Member of Parliament for the Old Tafo constituency, Vincent Asifua, and citizen Emmanuel Oseowosu, seeking to set aside the petitions. There's more in the following report.
The two suits by MP for Old Tafo, Vincent Asifua, and citizen Emmanuel Oseowosu are seeking similar reliefs from the Supreme Court. Represented by former Attorney General Godfred Yeboah-Dame, the Old Tafo legislator wants the Supreme Court to declare as unconstitutional the precedent forwarding of 3 petitions against Chief Justice Gertrude Tokono to the Council of State for consideration of her removal when she had not been notified of the petitions. He also is seeking the Apex Court to declare the actions of the President as an unjustified interference of the independence of the judiciary. For Emmanuel Oseowosu, a citizen, he is requesting for a restraining order against the President from proceeding to consult with the Council of State regarding the removal of the Chief Justice. An order preventing a committee from being constituted to inquire into or make a recommendation on the petition to remove the Chief Justice. The injunction application, which was scheduled to be moved at the Supreme Court on Wednesday, the 2nd of April 2025, pending the determination of the substantive suit, has been rescheduled to April 9, as seen on the course list of the Supreme Court. It's been 7 days since President Mahama furnished the 3 petitions to the Chief Justice and ordered her to respond within 10 days. It remains to be seen if the applicant in the suit will withdraw their case at the Apex Court following the recourse action taken by President Mahama to grant the Chief Justice to provide her response to the petition.
Well, that's a report read to you by Martin Esiedu Date. There, the Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana is expressing deep concern over the recent imposition of a 10% increase in tariffs on imports from Ghana by the United States government. Currently, Ghana is amongst the 35 sub-Saharan African countries that benefit from preferential access to the United States market under the Africa Growth and Opportunities Act, AGWA, which grants about 6,700 products duty-free status. The importers and exporters are mounting pressure on the Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, as well as the Foreign Affairs Ministry, to engage relevant stakeholders on the implications of this tariff on Ghana's economy. We're going to be engaging them shortly, but government is making moves to engage the United States of America on the imposition of the tariffs on Ghanaian products. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, has confirmed that he has invited the United States Ambassador to Ghana, Virginia Palmer, to his office on Monday, April 7. In a statement posted on X earlier today, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa said the meeting will afford the ambassador the opportunity to offer explanation to Ghanaian businesses and the entire Ghanaian business community. Meanwhile, a number of Ghanaians have been reacting to this development. Tax analyst Fred Kwashi Awute earlier spoke on Sunrise Morning Show, giving us view on the implications of this particular tax.
If you want to talk about trade tariffs, it affects export and import of goods and services. So if the U.S. imposes 10% tariffs on all imports coming from Ghana and other African countries, what it means is that our products which will be sent to the U.S. will be more expensive, and that can affect competitiveness of our product and competitiveness in terms of the pricing of the product. And that will go a long way to also affect the number of goods and services the number of goods that are imported or exported into the U.S. Market. And it goes a long way to affect our national economy, our jobs, and then our trade with other countries as well. I think U.S. has a national policy towards their international relations with other countries. So we can get this particularly from the group, the African Growth and Opportunity Act in the United States, which actually has some threshold policy on how they can deal with a particular countries concerning trade. So if a country which does not have a good democracy, doesn't have a good security issues, doesn't have issues concerning, treatment of human rights and other things, they try to vary all those kind of, policies that can affect your tariff. If you look at Ghana, for instance, we have a very good democracy. We just take power, and then there's no issue security matters in the country. Right. And human rights issues have been that minimal. Abuse of human rights has been that minimal. So the United States will look at these considerations in order to see which country they will impose more tariff in.
That's the tax analyst Fred Kwashi Awute there. Let's speak to Samson Asaki Awingobet. He's Executive Secretary of the Importers and Exporters Association. We'll get him on the telephone. Let me just give you an idea of why this is a concern to especially Ghanaian businesses who are doing a lot of business in the United States. Now, total exports of Ghanaian businesses to the United States in 2024 amounted to 6.95 billion Ghana cedis. That's 40.7% of the North American exports. Now, cocoa beans and products also that's exported to the United States, amounted to 3.14 billion Ghana cedis. That's 11.5% of total cocoa exports. Now, this 10% tariff impact would then lead to some 695 million cedis additional cost, all things being equal. Now, cocoa exports alone amount to about 314 million in extra tariffs. So essentially, this is what's going to have the direct impact. When we talk about the goods exempt from U.S. tariffs prior to this directive by Donald Trump, steel, aluminum, articles, and auto parts, copper, pharmaceuticals, semiconductors, lumber, energy products, and certain minerals unavailable in the United States according to this release from the White House in Washington, D.C., are exempt from the U.S. tariffs as well. So here's what we do know. But there are specific concerns that if you look at the top 5 African countries with the highest tariffs, Lesotho has been slapped with a 50% tariff, Madagascar 47%, Mauritius 40%, and then you have Botswana 37%. Now, Ghana has been slapped with 10%, but it's of real concern because you look at the quantum of exports to the United States and imports from the United States as well. Samson Asaki Awengobit is Executive Secretary of the Importers and Exporters Association. Mr. Awengobit, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. And good evening for having me.
We look at the statistics, it's quite clear why your organization, the Importers and Exporters, will be concerned about this. But you are in there. Tell us a bit more about the real impact that this directive would have on your businesses as importers and exporters.
Well, I see you mentioning cocoa and others, but you have not mentioned the non-traditional commodities. The traditional commodities are cocoa, gold, and bauxite and rice. The non-traditional commodities, where we have the agua, where people who export yam, people who export pineapple, mango, banana, dry fish, people who export palm oil, and the rest, will all be affected by this basket. The basket exporters and go to Upper East region. The major businesses would be basket weavers, where those people who export the basket to the U.S. market. So the chunk of these business people, where the 10% slap, will be affected all. And so, as an advocate, as a body that speaks for business community in this country, we should be worried. Don't you think so? You just made mention of the amount of money, millions of dollars. I'm sorry, you mentioned $600 million as if the 10% will be affected. Is that not it? And so this is a challenge that we should be worried. And anybody who cannot afford to pay that 10% will be out of business. And that is going to affect his livelihood. That is going to affect his or her workers as well. There will be job losses. And the big fish is that Ghana too will be affected. The Ghanaian currency will be affected in the form of cedi depreciation, because, mind you, Bank of Ghana also count the export proceeds that comes to the country. These small exporters that also contribute to the availability of the forest. Other than that, we have always the syndicated loans and other things that will come, and that could not lead us to anywhere. So, ideally, we should be concerned. We should be bothered about the challenges that this group of people will go through.
I see. And now we understand from the Foreign Affairs Minister, Samuel Okudzeto, that indeed he has invited the United States Ambassador to Ghana, Virginia Palmer, to his office on Monday for a meeting on this matter. What are some of the issues that you expect to be tabled of concern to the ambassador by the minister on your behalf?
I think the minister has done a useful job. If you look at the statement that I issued out there, I said we were calling on the trade and the Foreign Affairs Ministry to, as a matter of fact, meet with stakeholders, invite us, let us understand the thinking of government, because this thing has to do with bilateral issues and multilateral issues. And of course, the AGUA is what the Donald Trump did, is found on the WTO, World Trade Organization. You're creating trade barriers, you're creating trade wars, which is not good. So I'm happy that he's inviting. But before the invitation of the ambassador, I think you've also heard was it your platform or different platform? The ambassador spoke that yes, this thing is happening, but it's not going to bring any affect us in terms of our relationship. But what else can we still talk about our relationship? You have taken the aid away. I saw when President Mano read the statement during the State of the Nation address, and he emphasized about 7 or 6 regions are affected with the aid that we withdraw, which was helpful to us. Yet they withdraw. No problem, that's an aid. But doing business to AGUA is something that we've all had agreement. And suddenly, without no any provocation, Ghanaian has any provoked any American people or American government, and for you to just wake up and slap us with a 10%, that is a cost to us. Now that President Mahama is advocating, or the focus is that let's increase more value, let's do feed Ghana, let's add value to agro processors, which is under the Ministry of Trade and Industry with agribusinesses, and so that we can scale up the production and then export more and bring forests back. Because you needn't forget, 2 days ago we were reading that we've heard that the export so far, the issue so far has some stability, isn't it? And so if they still were having some stability, it's as a result of there's availability of forest. But if today the forest will not be there, what do you think? The export will not be there. What do you think it has done to our own currency? So I can tell you, it's not working. We should do it from me. So I strongly believe that it is not the best way, and so I think government should meet. And I'm happy that the Minister for Foreign Affairs have invited the ambassador to appear before the Foreign Affairs Minister for him to look into the issues that is challenging us now. And so I'm happy that he has invited kudos to him. We will wait till we see what will be the response. But I can tell you, Alfred, I am not quite sure. I'm not being a soothsayer, but I'm not sure Donald Trump will reverse his decision. The best advice, if I should have to give, the best advice that if I should have to give the government to be that we should push more on Africa Continental Free Trade area. We should be able to think about what can we do to promote the African Continental Free Trade, to make sure that Ghanaians would move to get the opportunity, so that our goods will go for the African Continental Free Trade. We should also, I'm happy that the President Mahama is here to push out or to send out the ambassadors to represent him in various countries. These ambassadors should be told that countries that do not impose tariff on us, they should go and push and then bring investors or business people, and also take our business people here to show them what is good in Ghana that we can also sell to those countries. I think that should be the way to go to improve. Other than that, we will have forest challenges. Then it is going to affect our city, and that is going to be a very, very huge challenge so far as the city stability is concerned.
I see. So I'm going to appreciate you for this. And joining us as well is the Chief Executive Officer of the Association of Ghana Industries, Mr. Chuma Kwaba. Mr. Kwaba, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, good evening.
So it's good to have you. We're learning now that the Foreign Affairs Minister indeed is going to have a meeting with Virginia Palmer, the U.S. Ambassador to Ghana, on Monday, April 7, in his office. But before we get into the objective of this meeting and your expectations of the minister, what will be the direct impact of this decision by the Trump administration to slap some 10% tariff on goods from Ghana?
Okay, so thank you very much. I think, first of all, there is some clarity to be sought, because we have, this is an executive order by the president in the U.S., and we have the AGOA. Most of the Ghanaian non-traditional exports fall under AGOA. Indeed, we have about 67,000 different products that counts under AGOA. And most of our exports to the U.S. market, if you take cocoa, the processed cocoa, the textiles, the garments, the shea butter, the processed foods, they all fall under AGOA. So the question is AGOA going to be affected? Because that is a special treaty that was passed by Congress. Of course, the executive instrument or executive order can overturn it. But then it may not be the intention, because if you look at it, Ghana and some developing countries are not the key targets of this whole arrangement. So therefore, if you are not the key target and there's already a treaty in place, they may say, okay, we'll respect the treaty. And for that reason, once we are exporting under AGOA or we are part of the AGOA arrangement, then this 10% shouldn't affect you. So if it happens, so then we are okay. However, if it's going to affect AGOA, then of course our goods to the U.S. market is going to attract that 10%. Now, when it attracts it, two things. The other competing countries, because we are also facing similar tariffs, in some instances even higher, in some countries like China and the rest is even higher, then in that case, competition with other countries that we are competing with them in the U.S. market will not be at a disadvantage. However, when it comes to the U.S. production itself, manufacturers in the U.S., definitely the imposition of 10% tariffs will make Ghanaian exports to the U.S. market more expensive, in which case we become less and less competitive. So depending on whether this AGOA arrangement is going to stay, it will impact differently. If it is not going to stay, then the impact will also be different. But whatever it is, it has an effect. It has an effect in the sense that, under the 24-hour economy, the government is trying to investment as well into the agribusiness value chain. If we succeed in getting investors, and then those investors are targeting the U.S. market, with this development, would they continue with their investment? They have to redo the analysis and see the impact it's going to make or the return on investment they're going to get before making final decisions. So it can actually affect investment in Ghana by companies that are targeting the U.S. market. So definitely that has an effect, and it has to be looked at. And so really, at this moment, it's good that the minister is going to have a discussion with the U.S. ambassador. And I think these questions, we expect that they will be asked, and they will push that strong agenda that even if you want to impose tariffs, let the AGOA stay. If the AGOA stays, then we wouldn't have too much problem to deal with.
See, but then again, if you look at the context and import of this particular 10% baseline import tax, Trump declared this national economic emergency. In fact, the justification for the tariffs, he says, is a means to revitalize domestic manufacturing and end what he refers to as decades of economic exploitation by foreign nations. With this kind of context and language, would you really expect that AGOA is still going to stay?
Well, I understand, because if you look at it and from the position of Trump, obviously one can understand that AGOA would not stay because of that strong position he has. However, bear in mind that when he says exploitation of the U.S., the likes of Ghana, how much of the U.S. have you exploited? Very minimal, very little, if anything. And I think that there's also a reciprocal arrangement here. They also export to our market. And in that case, if you look at the trade balance between Ghana and the U.S., obviously the imports from the U.S. is much more than exports to the U.S. So Ghana hasn't exploited them. In other words, the target is not countries like us. You know the countries that they are targeting, and they've mentioned it: the Asians, the Europeans, the Canadians, and other countries that are exporting large volumes to their market. And therefore, there could still be that exception, depending on how the discussion goes. So much as I don't have too much or too high expectations in terms of Trump changing his position, making that exception for Africa will also not be a surprise. Because in any case, what is that Africa's, total percentage in global trade? It's not even more than 4%. So really, our contribution to the so-called exploitation of the U.S. market is insignificant. And if it's insignificant, why bother yourself to deny us that opportunity? So let's see how the discussion goes, and I'm sure there could be a possibility and a possible way out. But in any case, whatever it takes, even if it doesn't happen, it's about time Ghana also explore export diversification, not just to the U.S. market, but to other markets, and even the products that we sell. Because for some products, the nature of our products is they are largely semi-processed and all that. The finished products are tough for us in that market because of the standard and then the packaging and several other factors that come into play. But if we succeed in that area, even if we impose 10% tariffs and we are very competitive, you can still export to that market. So export diversification is very important, both to the destination countries and then the nature of the products we work with.
See, but then again, what posturing would you expect that the minister goes into this meeting with, especially because the U.S. ambassador is going to represent the supreme interest of Donald Trump, essentially. And so if you hear Donald Trump make the point that he believes the United States has been looted, pillaged, raped, and plundered by other nations, and that he believes taxpayers in the U.S. have been raped off for more than 50 years, but that's not going to happen anymore. That's what position she's going to go into this meeting with. What would you expect of someone like Kuja Ablakwa?
Well, honestly, in view of the fact that compared to the U.S., Ghana is a very small market. Ghana really and realistically don't have the muscle to stand strongly against the U.S. like China could do, and perhaps the whole European Union could do. Even in Europe, individual countries will find it very difficult to stand very strongly against the U.S. market. And therefore, Ghana, we cannot have a posture of also strong retaliation and a very strong posture of if you do this, you also do that as a countervailing measure. I don't think that should be the posture. The posture should be emphasizing the point that we are not among those that have exploited the U.S. market because we have not exported that much volume into the U.S. And then also letting them appreciate the implications of this, because we are going to lose jobs as a developing country. We are really struggling with so many things. And therefore, we shouldn't go with the idea of fighting strongly back, but negotiating quite strongly that we are important partners in the U.S. arrangement. Some of the products we export there, they need it. And therefore, if you are exporting it there, don't make it too difficult for your citizens to buy these products. Don't make it too expensive for them. So I think that the minister will know how to go about it. But if you are talking of posturing, it cannot be one of a very strong posture or retaliatory posture. It should be more of cordial discussions and cooperative arrangements that should win the day.
So I appreciate you for this. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Sir Chuma Kwabwa is Chief Executive Officer of the Association of Ghana Industries. They're still live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W 93.5 in Y and beyond. Keep your thoughts, views, comments, and opinions coming through. Read out to you and to the rest of the world. And still talking about matters related to security, the Minister for the Interior, Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak, has cautioned police personnel against the practice of converting or changing the names of arrested foreigners into Ghanaian citizens' names. He warned that any officer found engaging in this misconduct would face disciplinary action. Interacting with the Ashanti Regional Police Command at their headquarters as part of his 2-day official visit to the region, he was not happy about the reports indicating that some officers had been changing the names of arrested foreigners to Ghanaian names. According to him, such practices are unacceptable and a violation of laws, enforcement agencies, and protocols in the country.
Our country is becoming a preferred destination for many across the world. But that comes, as you may know, for those of you in the police service, I shouldn't be telling you this. As many people troop into our country, so will crime will also increase. Just last year alone, 2024, over 7,000 Chinese sought residents in our country. Over 8,000 Indians sought residence in our country. As they troop in to do business, we should also know that many of them too may be coming with criminal mind. And as you may know, recently you heard the busting that we did with the immigration service. And the Chinese and some other citizens, Filipinos that we found, the kind of activities that we did were purely defrauding citizens around the world using a system that is set up that was so sophisticated. Many of them are into our forests. Many of them are cutting our trees. unlawfully. Others are involved in galamsey activities and many other crimes. We have resolved as a new policy that for 2 days, you in our forest, whether doing galamsey or cutting our trees unlawfully, getting yourself into fraud activities, that's whether using computer or other fraud activities, for these 2 crimes, when we arrest any foreigner, we are not interested in prosecuting them. Our first option is to take them back to their country. And this is something that we are very serious about. And you are the first point of call when sometimes you make arrests or when people are arrested, they are handed over to you. Please, if it involves these 2 things, the prosecutors within the police have officially written to the Attorney General, we are not interested in prosecuting people who are destroying our environment and who are defrauding people across the globe. What we want is that we want to take them back into their country and then we'll put them on the stop list, never to be able to come back to our country. And we want you to take this in very, very seriously. Since we started, we've taken a number of them abroad. I mean, about 107 have gone. We currently have, I think, about 17 that we are processing. And what we do, we simply get their embassies to foot the bill. We insist that, no, they have to foot the bill and carry them away. And now we are reintroducing another thing just to make it easier for you. We are saying that if you are coming from the Asia, you must have a security clearance of the country that you are not a criminal before you even embark on a plane to come to our country. So immigration is not going to only be using at your visa. No, you need to come with an accompanying security clearance that you are not a criminal from your country before you can re-enter into our country. This is something that we are taking very, very seriously, and we want you as the first line of security for us to be able to help ensure this. We are beginning to see some difficulties, and I mean, without mentioning specific areas where particular citizens who are foreigners are arrested, they are handed over to the police, and then because of whatever reason, they will go and enter it into their system as Ghanaians, just to avoid what we are doing. Please, if we find any officer involved in this, I'm sorry to say, we will make sure that the disciplinary measures within the police administration is admitted to you immediately. We don't want that. We know you are making a lot of sacrifices. Please, don't listen to any other person telling you that, oh, this person is that person is this. If we don't enforce this thing vigorously, very soon, this peaceful destination that we have, that we are so proud of, will be lost. Because they become so many, the criminals may even outnumber us. We've all seen examples of other countries in South America, how when criminality gets to a certain level, dealing with it becomes so difficult.
That's the Interior Minister and MP for Aswasa constituency, Mohammed Mutaka Mubarak there. Let's stay a bit further on this, and a security analyst, Richard Kumado, and also the convener of the Ghana Coalition Against Illegal Mining, Engineer Dr. Kenashigbe, have joined us. Gentlemen, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
I'll start off with you, Engineer Dr. Kenashigbe. First of all, you hear the Interior Minister talk about all of these measures. For instance, the decision to, as it were, have the commanders in the various Galamsey-prone areas reshuffled or transferred, and then also what we've just heard, that instead of just deporting foreigners involved in illegality, we'd rather have them prosecuted in this country. And then also with the support of and also information to their embassies or high commissions in this country. Find out your thoughts about this.
Well, you see, the minister just keeps on reinforcing the views I have of him, that he's very well intentioned. His heart is in the right place. He's not only saying all the right things, he's doing some very good things. And so in terms of the things he said, in terms of describing aptly the people involved in this Galamsey as terrorists, very, very positive things. And then I see, the whole conversation about wanting to create the fast-track courts to speed up the issues of prosecution, the issues of being able to track all excavators, and then make sure that you can geofence them in such a way that you restrict where these excavators go to. Those are possibilities. Then I hear the Minister of Interior talk about the fact that police commanders in these mining areas are going to be transferred, and those who are going to come are going to be given 3 months probation. I know that the president is working on giving KPIs to the district chief executives that will be appointed, and the fact that there's going to be a decentralization of the licensing regime. All of those are positive things, and I commend the minister for the great work that's beginning to do. All that said and done, again, he invites us to support them and encourage them when they are doing the good things, and that I have done. Then his other invitations are where the things that they are not doing so rightly, we also point out him. So when you have a situation where you have terrorists that have hacked one of your forestry commission guards, that the person is fighting for his life in Konfanoche. You have the situation where yesterday a policeman, in going to deal with some galamsey on the chamfans on the water bodies, slips, and then the current carries him away, he drowns, and you lose him. Those are parts of the country that require a state of emergency. So I don't know why it is that the minister and His Excellency the President stop short of calling, and declaring a state of emergency in these forest reserves.
Right.
And so that the forest reserves that have been turned from red to amber, we are able to protect them more seriously.
Very, very important point you made then, Dr. Kanashibang. This is why I bring in as well, Mr. Commodore, from your perspective, from the security perspective, this decision to transfer police commanders in these galamsey-prone areas, how much of a difference will that make?
I said, when specific police officers have committed crime, transferring them is not the right call. Sanctioning them is the right call. Transferring of police officers within the police service is something the IGP was going to do anyway. So you realize that he first appointed people into the regions. He was going to go to the regional and the district and come to the departmental units within the police service. So it was a natural call the police officers and this administration were going to take. I don't think they will have any qualms or hesitation obeying the call of the minister. But let the point be seriously made that when police officers within specific zones have committed crimes or have been involved in being compromised in one way or the other, transferring them is not the right call. Sanctioning is what brings the case to close, and it needed to be sanctioned. Now, it is also true that once you kept long at particular places, the tendency of getting used to the people and being compromised and being coerced is normal. And so when you bring in new people, they come in with new ideas and fresh ideas and new energy to help in the fight of galamsey, which the IGP himself has declared as a war. And he wants his men to keenly lead the fight against the galamsey.
But then again, if now the IGP is talking about transfer, you would rather he punishes these police officers who have been found complicit or compromised in this whole illegal mining fight. Now, why is that not being done as the first resort? And is there any challenge in doing so whatsoever from what you do know?
No, I don't think so, Alfred. I don't think so. That is why I just told you that if the Interior Minister is calling for transfer of these officers, it is a wrong call. The right call is that once officers are compromised, sanctioning them is the right call. And I don't think the IGP will have any qualms at all sanctioning any police officer. If it has been done, Paris, you would have been interdicted long time ago. And I don't know whether these cases have come to the attention of the new IGP. But having said that, the new IGP, knowing how the police administration has worked over the years, I'm very sure whether they have been compromised or not, he would have done a little bit more transfers at the regions, at the districts, at all the units to ensure that fresh ideas, fresh legs, and fresh initiatives. But to say that you have been compromised and the cure is that you are transferred, a criminal is a criminal. And whether we move you from the cocoa zone, from the Galamsey zone to a cocoa zone, to whichever zone, to the fishing zone, you will commit crime. And the right call there is sanctioning and not merely a transfer, as the minister will want to believe.
I say, Mr. Kumado, we're still live here on 3FM 92.7. Let me just remind you, we're live on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and also on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. But the other bit that the CSOs are asking for is a declaration of a state of emergency in these Galamsey-prone areas as well, so as to aid the fight against illegal mining. Is this a call that you would support, looking at the security perspective of this?
You know, this call has been on the table for a very long time, before President Mahama took over. The challenges the CSOs are having with President Mahama's Minister for Lands and Natural Resources is that there was an ally which they boldly promised they were going to repeal. And I think trying to do something about the ally instead of repealing it is where they are having the challenges with the CSOs. I think they would need to engage the CSOs again. I don't think these CSOs will take anything less than repealing that ally that allow people to mine in our forest body. They will want a new ally with some much larger restrictions. You can see the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources is struggling and is running very fast though to ensure that he reclaims some lands back to the state. But the issue of mining in our forests and in the illegal manner has become a national threat. And it's as a threat of terrorism. And if you understand how terrorism operates, they have the same methodologies and they have the same models of operandi. To that extent, state of emergency is one way of curing it. Unless government can say that we are putting in all the resources at our disposal and our people have martial strength to face these Galamseyers who have also been boarding because we have allowed them to occupy larger scales and acquire some level of arms to themselves to defend themselves in the course of the job they do. So this is where we are. State of emergency, let it be determined at the National Security Council institutions meeting, and let the president be involved in, because he's the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces. And once the security agencies and their heads can look at it again and look at the nature of this particular threat and the daring nature of the threat against stability and everything, then they will decide. Is either they declare state of emergency or they marshal themselves and support the minister in keeping these manners before it overruns all of us in this country.
And hold on a bit for me, because apart from this matter of illegal mining, if we've gone on our Facebook page at 3FM927, you'll see some statistics that were put together from the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources on a website. Total area destroyed by illegal mining, that's total forest reserves, land size destroyed by illegal mining, 5,253 hectares. That's equivalent to some 7,504 standard football pitches. So if you know the size of a football pitch, you picture 7,504 of them destroyed as a result of illegal mining. Guess what? 50% of treated water has been lost to 600% turbidity rise as a result of illegal mining. And if things continue this way, Ghana may need to import water by 2030. That's just some 5 years away from today. Just not too far away at all. Now, 5 birth deformities reported in Galamsey communities we have seen, and from what we do know as well, 3.5% of agricultural land, that's 4,760 hectares, as the size of the entire Greater Accra region, has been destroyed by Galamsey. So picture this. That's where the problem is right now. But as we shift our attention from illegal mining, the Minister for Interior, Alhaji Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak, has also applauded the Ghana Police Service for exercising restraint during the elections in 2024. He stressed that not a single shot was fired despite heightened tension. He observed that their decision not to use force was a significant step in ensuring peace and stability, even during and after the elections.
Our country is becoming a preferred destination for many across the world. But that comes, as you may know, for those of you in the police service, I shouldn't be telling you this. As many people troop into our country, so will crime will also increase. Just last year alone, 2024, over 7,000 Chinese sought residence in our country. I also want to take this opportunity to thank you sincerely for the role you played during the just ended election, before, during, and after the election. And I must commend the police administration once more that for the first time, no single shot was fired from the police in this election. And all the skirmishes that we had was rather coming from others, but not the police. It shows the professionalism in the police, and I hope that all those who misbehave in one police station or the other, the videos that you have, I, as your sector minister, is going to support you to ensure that those individuals are brought to book, so that next time when you decide not to fire any arm, people will understand you are not firing because you are going to pursue the perpetrators and bring them to book. So I want to encourage you to take up that very seriously, that almost every station or police station that people misbehave and you have the videos, please bring it forward and let's prosecute those individuals to serve as a deterrent, that when there's an election and the police decide that you are not going to fire at the police station, people will not take it for granted that your inability to carry arms or to fire guns at the police station is a sign of weakness. No, because you know you are going to be professional, the videos will be there, and you have the opportunity to prosecute the perpetrator. So I want to encourage you to do that.
That's Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak. Mr. Komado, so already we do know the president has issued a directive to the Ghana Police Service to investigate the incidents of violence that led to the deaths in the 2024 and 2020 elections. But this was specific to the former IGP, George Akrofi Dampare. From what we're hearing from the Interior Minister, that investigation has also now fallen on the laps of the new IGP, Christian Tete Yohono. What exactly are you expecting in the coming days?
That's why I was surprised. He was congratulating the police. They did not fire gunshots during the election. Irrespective of how these Ghanaians died during the 2024 election, we still recorded deaths in the 2024 election, and it was one of the crimes against Dampare, and that is why that beautiful letter was sent to him. I was thinking by now, after found one of the days, Ghana Tonight, and bring Felix Fosukwachi, Government Communication, and ask him how far with that particular investigation, and whether what percentage of the job has been done, or when the Attorney General comes to brief the press again, you can ask him that question so that we know how much work has been done in relation to that. But it is a natural cause that once Dampare is no longer there, and this has something to do with death, and the president himself has directed, Yohono will take charge and then make sure that the lessons learned as a result of the investigations and the outcomes of why people must die, we are able to find them out and put in ways to curtail it in the subsequent elections.
I see. Now, what are some of, from you, which areas should be of interest in this investigation that's going to be conducted?
Number one, procedure, election procedure. It is when the procedure is circumvented that you have agitation. And number two, the voting processes. Then number three, the relationship between those who conduct elections and the key participants, vis-a-vis the electoral commission and the political parties. Then four, the key role of law enforcement in dealing with all these discrepancies and infractions that will occur at any particular point in time at any unit of elections in this country. It is as a result of discrepancies and lack of communication and lack of coherent collaborations between the police, the electoral commission, and the political parties who represent the masses. That is why you see some of these other gunshots or people taking the law into their own hands. I believe if the police take a front role and they begin to deal with the issues right from the one and will not allow the Electoral Commission to take certain actions without them before they begin to run to react, deaths will continue to occur, cutlasses will fly, guns will fly. Then you will see the police reacting instead of being in the front line responding to the issues before. I came up with something called protecting the processes and ensuring that the procedures work. The police have to look at it and make sure that the threats that come as a result of practicing democracy and governance risks can be curtailed way before an election and use their platforms as a point of education to educate the general public. If we allow them to keep on reacting instead of responding, we'll continue to have election-related violence, and some of them could lead to death.
So, Commodore, appreciate you for this. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Richard Commodore is a security analyst joining us here on Hot Edition. 5 minutes to the top of the hour, 6 p.m. The Acting Director General of the State Interest and Governance Authority, SIGA, Professor Michael Kwesa-White, says he does not agree with suggestions for the privatization of the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, although SIGA as a body has not taken any firm position on the matter. Professor Kwesa-White is of the view that there could be a better turnaround strategy for ECG to make it more profitable under government supervision and not necessarily privatization. He spoke on the yet to be aired interview with Kemini Amano on TV3's Hot Issues.
Any decision about whether ECG should remain state-owned or otherwise should be thought through carefully. At the personal level, I don't think that ECG should be privatized, and I think I want to put that on record for a number of reasons. However, we also need to think carefully that privatization is not the only option. Within the gamut of new public management principles, within the framework of new public management, there are a large number of tools and ideas that we can pick to kind of improve the workings of ECG. No, SIGA is not directly.
Why shouldn't you be?
So we have to keep in mind that ECG still retains its place as being under the energy sector, and then there is a sector minister who is responsible for the policy oversight and policy directions of the sector. Many of these committees that have been set up, and I think I should correct this, I don't think the committee was set up to look into privatization. I think the minister had corrected that. I mean, the committee, in my view, was set up to look at options that could be rallied to improve the efficiency of ECG. So be that as it is, we don't decide for the minister how the policy direction should be. There is a point in which the minister or the ministry will eventually involve SIGA, and we do this all the time.
Okay.
And so we have been following the events. We have been informally having conversations. We belong to the same government. We are all citizens of this country. So we continue to have conversations. At a point when they should involve SIGA formally, they will notify us, and then we will get involved. But even if we are not notified or we don't get involved, and we see something that we feel in the medium to the long term will have adverse implications for the operations of the entity, that is in this case ECG, we quickly will alert both the management of the ECG and the sector minister as well. And sometimes they will invite for a conversation to see them. I think a lot of the things that have been reported in the press are things that are of interest to us. We should agree that many of the things may have some truth validity to them, and some of them could also be sensationally, discussed, as it were. So we are looking through the different issues that have been poured out, and of course, as I indicated, there is currently an in-house report going on ECG in particular. We just had one done on GIHOC, and ECG one is being done now. And that report will give us a sense of some of the things that we think ECG should take a second look at as far as its operations are concerned, and improve one is financial performance, improve its service quality, and then overall efficiency in operations as well.
As Professor Michael Kwesa-White, he heads the State Interest Governance Authority, SIGA. The first national tracking poll conducted by Global Info Analytics following the 2024 general elections shows a dramatic shift in the outlook for the country, as 62% of voters now say the country is headed in the right direction, compared to 26% who say it is headed in the wrong direction. 12% have no opinion. Now, in the last tracking poll carried in October 2024, only 31% of voters said Ghana was headed in the right direction. 62% said it was headed in the wrong direction. This is what Musa Danko said in an earlier conversation.
I think a combination of things. There's a more coverage in the media, on social media. People are seeing what is going on around the communities, especially for those that are involved in Galamsey, and across the country to see or seeing what is happening elsewhere. And they've also not seen the water bodies improve. So on that basis, they don't think that a lot has changed. Indeed, 44% said nothing has changed, which means what was going on at the time before the election was still going on. And 10% said it's gotten worse. Only 38% said it has improved. If you want to look at it from a different angle, you could also say that in terms of those who say that improved, it's about 28% more people are saying it has improved than gotten worse. That's another angle to look at it. But then if you look at it from the Galamsey areas, that's where this has become very interesting. Because in that, or in those areas, they are split. Almost 28% are saying that it has improved, and 25% is gotten worse. So in those areas, nothing really has changed. You know, if you are in an area or locality and you see your water bodies getting cleaner, those are the evidence you use to say that, oh, the water or the situation is improving. If people have been stopped from mining in the water bodies, the color of the water would respond, will change, people will see it. So with Galamsey, when you are making improvement, it becomes evident through the color of the water. Maybe that has not happened yet. So they are saying that nothing has changed.
As Musa Dankwa there, he also maintains that his polls would continue despite the concerns raised about the area or specification.
You know, in summary, about 66% of Ghanaians approve of the way Mahama is doing his job. Only 23% disapprove of his performance. If you compare this to last October poll, in October poll, only 36% of Ghanaians were approving Nanado, and 59% were approving. So you can see a complete turnaround for the president's approval in terms of what Nanado was doing and then where Mahama is now. Now, in terms of who would win an election, if there is one today, a rematch of the 2024 election, the poll shows that Mahama would improve upon what he got in the last election. He probably get around.
That's Musa Dankwa, Executive of Global Info Analytics. 2 minutes after 6, we're going to go for this quick break. When we're back, we're getting to the world of business. Menu Afo is standing by. Stay with us.
It's the battle of the teams in a 3FM 60-day Fit Start Challenge. Which team will come up tops? Will it be Team Comfort or Team Helen? Will age and tact triumph? Or will youth and energy win? Call or WhatsApp on these numbers: 0532 300 927 or 0532 200 927. Now, to join Team Comfort or Team Helen and enjoy holistic wellness coaching, specialized diet plans, and cooking tutorials, thrilling exercises, challenges, and activities, plus many exciting rewards. 3FM Fit Start is sponsored by Daffy's Health and Beauty, Bill's Microfinance and UGL Premier, and supported by Blue Skies and the Ghana Medical Association. 3FM Fit Start, your health, your dream, your
Accra gets busy on this frequency. 92.7 3FM.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition. Tonight, coming up, Bank of Ghana clarifies plans to strengthen microfinance institutions and rural banks as it rules out liquidation. We'll hear from Acting Head of Banking Supervision, Ishmael Adam. My name is Minuafo. Stay with us for more stories. And so the Bank of Ghana has clarified that its recent announcements regarding specialized deposit-taking institutions, including microfinance institutions and rural banks, does not involve liquidation of receivership. Earlier, Governor Dr. Johnson Isiama had hinted that the central bank was in discussions with the Ministry of Finance to initiate a cleanup of the specialized deposit-taking institutions. But addressing the media, acting head of Banking Supervision Department at the Central Bank, Ishmael Adam, noted that focus is on strengthening the sector rather than cleanup exercise.
We are looking at how do we bring in equity from strategic investors. And as I said, there are some strategic investors talking to some of these SDIs, and also how to revamp their governance structure such that we have proper governance arrangements around their operations. The other issue is how to deal with the mission drift, i.e. SDIs doing things that was not originally the intended activity for that space. So with all this, we are working closely with the Ministry of Finance. As a matter of fact, a consultant was engaged. He did some drafts. Bank of Ghana also constituted an internal committee to do some work on that arrangements. And so the way forward is to put these two work that has been done by the consultant that was engaged by the Ministry of Finance together with the work that was done by the internal committee of the Bank of Ghana. The idea of all this is to make sure that that space of the market is revamped to serve people who hitherto would have been excluded from the financial space, but with the intervention of these SDIs are brought onto this financial space, both in terms of credit delivery as well as deposit mobilization.
That was acting head of Banking Supervision Department at the Bank of Ghana, Ishmael Adam. Also, government has reaffirmed its dedication to fostering a conducive business environment, particularly for the private sector. Speaking at the inauguration of Teleperformance Ghana's third operation site in Accra, Chief Executive of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Simon Machi, highlighted plans to reform parts of the GIPC law. This move, he says, aims to reposition Ghana as an attractive destination for foreign direct investments, ultimately driving economic growth.
Important to take note of all the hard work of government to reposition the country and to state that the country is open for business. So that's one significant component, that the country is open for business. Two, there are also plans underway to reform part of the GIPC law, which is to attract a lot more FDI to the country. But it's important for us to look at everything within the broader context of what's happening around the world. So we must open up our own country for investment, and that's what we're doing. We must encourage those already investing here to reinvest a lot more, like what we've just witnessed. TP has been here for 3 years. Now they want to move their staff to 2,000 and to 5,000 and almost to 10,000 and beyond. So government is ready to give them the support which is required. My colleague have said we do have the trained labor, which is around to work, highly skilled labor. The conditions, the government is willing to work upon the investment environment and to open up the space for them.
You heard the voice of Chief Executive of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Simon Machi, speaking there. Meanwhile, Chief Executive of Ghana Digital Center Limited, Jifa Gunu, has revealed that government will operationalize all regional digital centers nationwide. This initiative, as part of the 24-hour economy program, seeks to provide a necessary infrastructure to support the private sector and create employment opportunities.
What we set out to do, what we plan to do, what we launched, we started in 2016, is attracting the needed attention and is attracting the needed investment, that's the FDIs. Even though this center is not really at our center, but we've been able to open the door for BPO services across the country. And we're seeking to do more and achieve more of this going forward. That is why we are looking to operationalize all our regional centers, apart from the one in Accra that everybody is known for. But we have centers in the 10 traditional regions, of which we are looking forward to operationalize. We are transitioning into a 24-hour economy where we never sleep. Of course, a BPO center like this will never sleep. It is for we government to provide you the essential tools and platform for you to be able to operate around the clock.
And that was Chief Executive of Ghana Digital Center Limited, Jifa Gunu, speaking at the inauguration of Teleperformance Ghana's third operation site in Accra. That's it for Business News on Hot Edition. For more stories, please check out our website. It's 3news.com. I am Minu. Our full stay tuned. Hot Edition continues shortly.